What about Hebrews 9:23 and 24? It says, "Thus it was necessary for the copy of the heavenly things to be purified with these rites, but the heavenly things themselves with better sacrifices than these. For Christ has entered not into holy places made with hands, which are copies of the true things, but into heaven itself, now to appear in the presence of God on our behalf." Didn't heaven have to be purified as well? Isn't that why there needs to be an atonement going on? Because sin started in heaven, right, with Lucifer? And so didn't there need to be a cleansing that takes place in heaven as well, like the verse says there?
Where in the Bible does it confirm that the heavenly sanctuary has both a holy and a most holy place? Where in the Bible does it confirm that the heavenly sanctuary has both compartments?
So in the Old Testament, God gave very precise directions as to what to do in the sanctuary as a copy of what is in heaven. So why would God use language like that and say, well, this is to replicate what is in heaven, when in reality there wasn't anything in heaven? I think God wouldn't do that to us.
Okay, very good. Yes.
Yeah, and just Hebrews chapters 8 and 9, same thing, just confirming the earthly was a type. It was pointing to the heavenly, and the heavenly is just like the earthly, the two compartments. Hebrews 8 and 9.
Well, so first of all, it says heaven itself, which my point in pressing that is it's not talking about some building in heaven. It's talking about heaven itself as the counterpart to the earthly tabernacle or temple, right? That symbolic building, either the portable, tabernacle or the brick and mortar temple, pictured the heavenly dwelling place of God, and not necessarily some building that is in a particular region of heaven. It's heaven itself, and the basic point of Hebrews 9 is that Christ has provided the atonement necessary to make the way for us to God, right? So in Hebrews 9, it's talking about the true atonement that opens up the way into God's presence. I would think Hebrews 9 is a problem for them anyways. I don't know why they'd appeal to it, because it's certainly not communicating the idea of something being cleansed 1,800 years in the future, or something that Jesus would begin doing in the future. The text speaks of something that Jesus already accomplished, right? The cleansing is something that already happened.
Correct. So I'll get some, not all, I don't want to say all Adventists use necessarily the same passages, but a lot of them will use this to say that what's in heaven was a copy of what's on the earth, or what was on the earth. Or rather, what was on earth was actually a copy of what is actually up in heaven. And so these are the sort of things that they'll proof text and latch onto out of context, to say, see, so there is a tabernacle in heaven, and see, there does need to be a continuing atonement, because God is still reconciling all of the universe to himself, and he's going through this process, which ultimately comes down to him having to, as I mentioned at the end of the Steel Man, vindicate his character. And so they'll point to this for typically those two things. But let's read Daniel 7. So
note also,
go ahead. Go ahead.
Quick, just note also where it says, now to appear in the presence of God on our behalf. If that doesn't bespeak Christ entering all the way in, right? If you're thinking of in terms of some building, and then the holy place, and then the most holy place, and trying then to get this idea of, two stages and so forth, right there, it's done away with. Now to appear in the presence of God on our behalf. Christ has gone all the way up and in, if you want to think in crudely corporeal, ways.